The bravest black man story that got banned from history. Think of a time when a black man, born in the crucible of slavery, became the first to stand trial for the murder of a white man and emerge victorious, claiming his innocence in a court of law. This is the remarkable tale of Charles Caldwell, a blacksmith who not only forged iron, but also forged a path toward justice in an era where the echoes of slavery lingered and discrimination sought to shackle the aspirations of a community. But wait, there's more to Charles Caldwell's story than meets the eye. Picture this: a Christmas Day celebration turned deadly, a trusted friend leading him into a perilous trap, and an assassin lurking in the shadows. Stay tuned as we uncover the shocking events that unfolded on that fateful Christmas, revealing a side of Charles Caldwell's life that adds a layer of intrigue and suspense to an already captivating tale. This is not your average history lesson. It's a real-life drama that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Imagine the 1830s in Mississippi, where Charles Caldwell, a blacksmith, is born into the shackles of slavery. The South thrives on the trade that disregards human rights, but Caldwell's story is about to take a remarkable turn. Fast forward to the post-Civil War era. Slavery is abolished, and Caldwell, now a free man, steps into the political arena. Elected as a black Republican in the Mississippi Constitutional Convention, his journey is a testament to bravery and resilience. To truly grasp the challenges Caldwell faced during the Reconstruction era, we need to delve into the broader societal shifts. The Reconstruction era, extending from 1866 to 1877, aimed to address the deep-seated impacts of chattel slavery. As a senator in Mississippi, Caldwell's efforts to improve conditions for black people faced relentless opposition. Despite the constitutional strides achieved, such as the 14th and 15th Amendments, the struggle was far from over. White Democrats, many of them former Confederate soldiers, were determined to reclaim the state's legislature, leading to a wave of anti-Republican and anti-black violence that permeated Mississippi. The sudden shift in power challenges the status quo, setting the stage for Caldwell's relentless fight. Caldwell's role as a radical Republican was pivotal during this time. The radical Republican movement, which he actively contributed to, sought to reshape the Southern states politically and address the systemic issues that had perpetuated slavery. The movement's focus on racial and gender equality was revolutionary, setting the stage for a new era in Mississippi's history. It's essential to understand that Caldwell's influence wasn't merely about legislative efforts. It was a radical shift in power dynamics. The very fabric of Mississippi society was transforming, and many white citizens found it challenging to reconcile the abrupt change. Hold on tight. The story takes a thrilling turn in 1875 with the infamous Clinton riot. The Clinton riot marked a dark turning point. The violence that erupted and the subsequent withdrawal of the militia to safeguard the democratic process exposed the fragility of progress. The multi-racial democracy envisioned by Caldwell and his supporters clashed violently with the efforts of former plantation owners to restore white minority rule. The intricate dance between political aspirations and deeply ingrained racial prejudices created a volatile environment. To truly appreciate Caldwell's resilience, we must acknowledge the emotional toll of being at the forefront of such a transformative period. His determination to face white domestic terrorism head-on, despite the violent backlash, speaks volumes about the strength required to challenge ingrained societal norms. After the convention of 1868 was postponed, Caldwell began working on a new plan, which angered many white Democrats in Mississippi. The son of a prominent white judge, Johnston tried to assassinate Caldwell, and he killed him in self-defense. In a surprising turn of events, Caldwell was found not guilty by an all-white jury and set free. This case became the first time in American history where a black man was acquitted of the murder of a white man. This outcome was a significant victory for Caldwell personally and symbolically for the African American community. It was seen as a step towards justice and equality in a region where racial biases were deeply entrenched. Caldwell, while not formally educated, was often praised for his efforts and his intelligence. However, many white authors described him as a notorious and turbulent Negro. The legal victory that saw Caldwell acquitted of murder after killing a white man was not just a personal triumph, but a landmark moment in American history. The trial showcased the potential for justice to prevail over racial biases, even in a society grappling with the aftermath of slavery. Caldwell's defense strategy, likely shaped by the socio-political climate of the time, effectively communicated that this trial wasn't just about his life. His famous words, "This trial is not for my life alone, but for the dignity of every man born in chains," reverberated through the courtroom and resonated with the broader African American community. Caldwell's triumph is personal and symbolic, challenging entrenched racial biases, but his adversaries labeled him a Negro of desperate character. The stage is set for the 1875 elections, a pivotal moment in Mississippi's history. In 1875, elections represented a pivotal moment in Mississippi's history, set to determine whether a multi-racial democracy would survive in the state Caldwell had been fighting for. The political season started peacefully, with around 1,500 black participants showing up. Citizens were urged not to bring any arms or alcohol. However, not everyone complied. To calm tensions, Caldwell invited a Democrat to speak, and all the attendees seemed willing to hear his speech. But when a Republican representative arrived, the white liners interrupted his speech, which led to a racial massacre and 4 days of bloodshed. 50 Republicans, most of them black Mississippi residents, were killed. Caldwell, however, escaped the opposition and prepared to carry out another attack because some were intent upon taking his life. A group of former plantation owners fielded the attacks in an effort to restore white minority rule in Mississippi at any cost. Governor Ames assembled the state militia to ease tensions for peaceful elections. However, later he was pressured by Democrats and he pulled back the militia. Caldwell was utterly disappointed that the mayor, who politically aligned with him, did not respond to his requests. The elections turned into a racial war zone. Caldwell, facing threats, defiantly votes. The peaceful season descends into chaos as white liners interrupted speeches, leading to a racial massacre. Caldwell, a target, prepares for the ultimate battle. Leading up to Election Day, Caldwell received many threats and heard about numerous plots to assassinate him. Despite the danger he faced, he courageously showed up and cast his vote. However, this surprised and further angered the opposition, who expected their threats to silence him. Even though Caldwell lost the election that day, he was still seen as a serious threat by the Democrats, who continued to plot against him. So they conspired with Caldwell's trusted friend, Senator Buck Cable, to lead him into a trap. On Christmas Day, 1875, a trusted friend, Senator Buck Cable, betrays him. Buck Cable invited Caldwell to a celebratory toast. However, this toast was a signal or cue for an assassin waiting outside the window to try to shoot Caldwell in the back of his head. Upon realization that he had been betrayed, he requested one last time to be taken outside, where he declared that he was a brave man and should be remembered as such. He was shot a couple more times, after which he passed away. Caldwell's death was later investigated as part of a larger congressional report, and yet no one was punished for his death. The jury claimed that there was simply not enough evidence that pointed towards the person responsible for this murder. Following his death, white Democrats established their new rule, which only permitted few black men to vote. The Reconstruction era was ultimately challenged by Jim Crow laws, which segregated people based on race, and yet the Civil Rights era effectively challenged this racial hierarchy. When the Voting Rights Act of 1965 passed, it was because Caldwell and many others gave their life in pursuance of this progress. While Caldwell was given many titles by the threatened white men, such as the notorious and turbulent Negro, to insult him, he made an unforgettable contribution to the advancement of African Americans. Caldwell led a life of adversity, facing discrimination and racism, yet he persisted in his fight for equal rights for black men. Caldwell was brave and courageous and did not give in to threats, which is why white Democrats wanted to murder him. While he was killed, his dream that black people would be able to participate more readily in the political process was actualized. Caldwell's death marked a turning point in Mississippi's political landscape. The establishment of new rules by white Democrats, limiting black voting rights, foreshadowed the onset of Jim Crow laws. The hope kindled during the Reconstruction era faced formidable challenges in the form of institutional segregation. Jim Crow laws emerging in the late 19th century sought to maintain racial hierarchy, and Mississippi became a battleground for these discriminatory practices. The struggle that Caldwell had fought for, the dream of inclusive political participation, faced a severe setback. Yet, Caldwell's contribution did not fade into oblivion. The Civil Rights era, which emerged decades later, picked up the mantle of his fight. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, a landmark achievement, can be seen as a culmination of the sacrifices made by individuals like Caldwell. Charles Caldwell's story is a tapestry woven with threads of bravery, resilience, triumph, and tragedy. While history books might not adequately recognize his contributions, the impact of his life on the broader struggle for civil rights cannot be overstated. Few history books today mention Caldwell or his efforts in pursuing the advancement of civil rights. However, his story must be told to encourage those who continue to fight towards racial equality and show how one man's determination can lead to enormous progress.